All right, my friends, this we're going to do a graph. You have to see the accompanying blog post. It'll be at wmbriggs.com or it'll be at wmbriggs.substack.com. My head's cut off, I see on this thing, but it doesn't matter. It's always a question. It's always a question of large importance. Do our rulers, elites, experts, celebrities, and other riffraff really believe what they're spouting? I mean, do they really believe that a man, that guy walking over there down the street in a dress, is really a woman? Do they really believe that, I just dropped the eraser, do they really believe that climate change is an existential threat? Do they really believe that the whites are irredeemably racist? All these things that they say, all these latest things. Well, there's all kind of political theory out there about whether or not it's even important whether or not they believe. I think it is important whether or not they believe these things. And in fact, not everybody follows on the same line. So I created this chart just to kind of show, I'm going to draw it up for you here in this video to show you what I think is happening. So do our rulers and experts and the like believe? Some do, some don't. But that belief is always accompanied by a way of attitude they have towards life, which I'm going to call a level of cynicism. We can go from a level of very high cynicism where these people are just basically opportunists. They're out to get whatever they can get for themselves, or they don't give a damn about anything. They're just highly cynical. All the way up to a very low level of cynicism where people are absolutely sincere. It doesn't mean that they're not crazy, but they're absolutely sincere. Now, about the beliefs I'm talking about here, I'm going to draw this scale up here. The beliefs we're talking about are beliefs in the latest thing. Our beliefs in the lunacies that our rulers are preaching at us. I don't mean beliefs in whether the sun rises in the east or something like this. I mean all this gender theory nonsense, all this racism, all the climate change, all these current things. Do they really believe? Well, so I have a scale here of high belief in these things, all the way down to low belief, which I'm going to call reality. These are people, this is where you don't believe in the current thing because you know it's lunatic, all the way to people who have very high beliefs in these things. And here's the axis of cynicism. Both of these are important. We're going to find out, we're going to populate all four of these quadrants right here. From very low cynicism to very high cynicism, very sincere people, all the way to the most unscrupulous people. So let's look at these four quadrants right here. This quadrant down on the left is peopled by people who have a very high belief and who are highly cynical. Now, these people have a belief in the latest thing, but it's a very shallow belief. They're always believing based on appeals to authority. They say they look to people above them in the cultural milieu, and they take a signal from these kind of things, and they say, aha, here is the current thing, here is the latest thing, we must believe. And so they do. It's a very shallow belief, and they're highly cynical. They're also, because they're taking this appeal to authority, it's purely a matter of power to them. They see who the powers are in society and so forth, and they're very cynical about this. So they're willing to lie to you. They're willing to call for censorship. They're willing to do any number of things in order to promulgate these beliefs over here. So let me just populate this. Since my microphone doesn't go with me, I'll write it up over here. Journalists, celebrities. Low. This is people like journalists, celebrities, low-level experts, people like this. So, for instance, and I can't use this word. You're going to have to follow my sign language on this because I'm going to post this on YouTube too. And YouTube censors. YouTube censors are on this list over here. So, for instance, celebrities and journalists, when during the the panic we had of a couple of years back, involving that particular disease. I don't want to use any of these keywords because the YouTube censor algorithm will zing me. And I forgot to set the dumb computer to so it wouldn't fall asleep on me. I know how to do it. I just didn't do it. I forgot. And I'm not going to start over from the beginning. All right, so at the very beginning of that panic, they swore up and down publicly, I'm not going to, over my dead body, I'm not going to take the Trump, this letter right here, the thing that begins with this letter. There was no way they were going to take the Trump, you know what. But after he was kind of out, and after the commission took over, then these were the same people who said we should lock up people. We should isolate these people who refused. These were this letter deniers. We should separate them from society, isolate them, lock them up, don't let them eat. All this kind of nonsense. So these people are highly volatile. They'll change their minds in an instant, so that when we win, all of these people will automatically, they'll still be highly cynical, and they'll still believe, but they'll start to believe in the things that they're supposed to believe in. So there's a large class of these people, and also low-level experts fall into this category to some extent. All right. So what about people who have a high belief, but have by the way, so this I'm going to call this the line or axis of propaganda. So this is, I'm going to write it up, the axis of propaganda. Okay. So this is where all the propagandists live, basically. Low level, besides experts, I mean to say, like people who are in the bureaucracy. People in the bureaucracy who just have their paper shuffling jobs, and they're there for the bureaucracy, for the purpose of the bureaucracy and nothing else. They're willing to believe anything they're told, and they believe it's true because it serves the bureaucracy. Okay. So, what about people who have a high belief, but are very sincere? Well, in this group, there's lots of people. There's usually midwit professors. All right, here, I'll write it up. Let me write up a few of them. These are midwits, professors of various stripes, medium-level experts. Students, of course, and the like. These are people who believe ardently in every current thing. They might not believe absolutely every single latest thing, but when it's a latest thing and they're told to believe, and they've been imbued with years of education in the matter, why they have high belief. These are the people who can't change the subject. They can bring everything back to their favorite way, how it all ties into whatever the latest thing is. Because of this, some rulers are in this class too, some politicians and so forth, particularly new politicians. Those who are just coming into the system, they haven't been scathed or scarred as yet. They really do believe what they're pushing, these kinds of things. Certainly experts believe what they're pushing. Because of this, it's quite obvious. I'm going to call this the line of ideology, because these are where all the ideologues live and flourish in our current system. The axis of ideology. Okay, there's the axis of ideology. Well, now, what about this quadrant here? You notice my artful use of color here. It's amazing. Aha, I'll change color here. So we have people here who are highly cynical. But they don't believe in the current thing, or the further out you're on this ray makes all the difference, right? There's people all over in this box But we're going to talk about the people who are sort of stereotypically at the end of this, where they're very highly cynical and they have very low beliefs. Well, these are people like top rulers. Let me write that up. Find my chalk here. Let me write it up. So we got rulers. We have corporate types, business executives. Top experts, the Anthony Fauci's of the world, people like this. These are people who don't, and are not stupid enough to believe that a man in a dress is actually a woman. They're not stupid enough and ignorant enough to believe that climate is an existential threat. Here's Janet Yellen sitting at, I guess she was giving a lecture to the Fed or somebody, or being questioned and answered kind of thing. Climate change is an existential threat. She reads it with such a tone of banality and dullness. She doesn't believe any of this stuff, but it's very useful to get their ways. I think people like Larry Fink, I think, is a good example, the CEO of BlackRock. He was at the very beginning, was very big on net zero. Net zero is one of these idiotic schemes, completely asinine, and if fully implemented, will kill a lot of people. It's just insane. It has no rational basis. It has no real scientific basis, nothing like this. But it was very lucrative for those people, because you got to understand, when these new programs come about, they require people to be in charge of them. That's going to get the top experts lots of money in order to give so-called scientific evidence support of these. Business experts are going to be able to sell. So these people like Fink, who are very much invested in so-called green energy, right? They're going to sell turbines and all this kind of stuff. They're going to make a packet out of this kind of a thing. And rulers, of course, because the more they can preach belief and these lunacies, the more control they get over the populace and so forth. But they're not dumb enough to believe these things. So, but Fink, for instance, was all for net zero at first, and he was even preaching that they were going to have to coerce, businesses who weren't on board into this kind of a thing. But even he was smart enough to realize recently, he gave a talk at, I think it was the World Economic Forum, solar and wind are a complete boondoggle. I did a calculation once. You got to basically take like 1/5 the United States, 1/5 of the land area of the United States, excluding Alaska, in order to generate as much as electricity, for instance, as we now have using oil and coal and gas. So it's completely preposterous. He realizes this, that if we were to embrace all this kind of thing, he's going to become impoverished just as well as everybody else. So he's trying now to move the window back, to not vilify oil and natural gas as much as they used to do in the past. So that's all these kinds of people. So I'm going to call this the axis of evil. And speaking of people at the WIF, I have an example on the blog. I've forgotten the guy's name. He's some Swedish banker. I think he's up in this category. He was out preaching against coffee the other day. He was saying, oh, coffee adds carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So what? Who cares? Carbon dioxide is plant food. These people all forget photosynthesis, as if they've never been taught it or they never paid attention. Nobody remembers that plants, that's their food. That and water. The carbon dioxide, sunlight, water. A few trace nutrients. That's it. Plants need CO2. That's carbon dioxide. All this stuff, all these science lessons they claim to know, they don't know. They're all absolutely ignorant of all these things. Anyway, this guy's out preaching against coffee. And it looked to me, I have his name on the blog, I can't remember. It's utterly forgettable. Just yet another of this zombie army of, people who have a high belief in this kind of stuff but aren't able to think. He wants to get rid of coffee. And there was another one, I think I'll try to link to it. There was this guy, an epidemiologist, who was saying, oh my God, we can't give people cancer treatments because cancer treatments are radiation. Not because the radiation is bad and a scare word to a lot of people, because that radiation requires electricity to generate, and that radiation is adding carbon dioxide. It's increasing the cancer patient's carbon footprint. So, all right, let these people die off. We don't need to give them radiation treatment. Whether or not radiation treatment's any good, that's a whole other question. But we're not going to do it because, heaven forfend, we increase our carbon footprint. So these type of midwit professors and all the rest, they're all in here, contrasted with most of the rulers. You can't imagine that in his, moments where he's aware of what's going on in the world, that the current sitting president of the United States has any true belief that, a man putting a dress on suddenly somehow magically transforms into a woman. No, that's only professors who have this kind of a thing. All right. The last quadrant right here. Well, these are people who they don't believe any of the latest things. They're too smart for that, or have too much common sense, even if they don't understand all the particularities. And they're not cynical. They're completely sincere. This is us. This is, you readers, you watchers, you, us, however you want to say it. This is the great masses. This is the most populous quadrant. Most people are in this quadrant. But that doesn't mean they have any power to speak of. Most of us have absolutely no power whatsoever. We can put out little videos and things like this, and we can talk to ourselves. But we have, at this moment at any rate, without organization and so forth, we can't overthrow these lunatics down here and teach these guys to earn a better living. These people will follow along, as I said. Once we do win, these people will automatically switch. They have absolutely no scruples. They have very little intelligence, but they compliment themselves that they do. So this is people up here. Unfortunately, some people up here, they're too prone to. They have their own latest thing, some of them. And I don't mean this as a negative comment. So they're too ready to believe that there are conspiracies out there in their favor. I'm not going to mention any letters of the alphabet or anything like that because I don't want the algorithm to zing me. But they believe that some current political figures and some hidden figures are working behind the scenes in order to restore normalcy, restore common sense, restore truth, restore reality, or restore some kind. Now that's perfectly understandable. That kind of stuff you can't really fault, because they're sincere. They're aiming in the right direction. They're aiming towards truth, but the way they think we're going to get there is not quite right. So that's it. So it does matter. So who do we attack? Who do we go after? Well, we all the time we're trying to talk. We're not going to convince these people here of the truth of anything. These people are lost. They're just an absolute lost cause. We're going to catch some of these people up here. There are some people who have a glimmer, who are down here at the bottom part of this axis, kind of a thing like this, who may be convinced of the error of their ways when they're shown the error of their ways. When you demonstrate, for instance, that this dress put on a man doesn't suddenly make him into a woman, for instance, or that climate change is not anything to worry about, or that racism is preposterous, and these kind of things. We'll get a few of these kind of people, so we can convert a few of them, but they'll just end up over here in the masses. That's not going to work. These are the people right here. We could preach to them all day long about all of these things, show them and demonstrate positively proofs. We could have it at the level of mathematical rigor and so forth, if you've been following my class and everything. Doesn't matter. They're not going to care. They're going to do what's best for them. These are the people that have to be gone after, but not using any elements of logic or science or something like this. How to get at them and everything, I'm not going to put on this video. But we'll discuss that at other times. And anyway, I think you already know. But this is it. So yes, it matters. Some of these people believe the latest thing. Some don't. Some are sincere. Some are cynical. And I think this chart more or less captures this. I have a fuller write-up and with more examples and so forth on the blog. Again, that's wmbriggs.com. or wmbriggssubstack.com. I'll link to it in all the video descriptions so you'll be able to find it. And that's it for now. Thanks very much. Here's a picture I'm going to take a picture of this or a screenshot of this later. Okay, thank you.